Believe it or not, this topic is going to be more about you guys who may be into the stuff. Any of you guys who are into movies and you feel like you understand them enough, spend enough time with them, are acquainted enough with franchises, this is going to be your episode. This is literally me giving you my own show because I just want to bring up some things as someone who's not into that I simply do not understand, and I'm very confident about declaring myself ignorant on the topic in the name of at least allowing myself to be educated as much as the word educated can apply to me in this regard, because it's hard. It's just something that I haven't exercised my brain for. To give an example of what I'm thinking about, I had to look at some of the news regarding Marvel, regarding the MCU, because that's the thing that's really big right now and everybody's talking about it and you cannot escape the conversation. And I just saw the news about how the Kang character is out, whatever the circumstances is, that's not the point. Months ago, people, when Loki ended, were tripping about how they felt like this character was a waste or recast the character, something like that. And sincerely, I thought he was one of the coolest parts about this show, about this arc. And I just couldn't understand why people were upset by this character. But I think that me, as a simple person, as someone who doesn't know anything about the source material, being the comics, then it's something that honestly doesn't affect me. I judge a film or a show based on how it connects with me as part of the audience. Am I being entertained? Am I at least, I don't necessarily need to laugh to have a good time, but am I understanding the humor, or is it getting cringy? You gotta admit that there's some newer movies that they go very heavy on the comedy, or comedy attempts, it should say, and it just comes off as cheesy and cringy in some situations. Thor Love and Thunder would be the best example of that. I didn't particularly love that movie. I didn't absolutely hate it, but some of the dialogue felt off to me compared to the other things that involve Thor that I have seen that I found to be good and useful. Now I'm going to ask one question. There's just one question. Do you actually like content and things? Let it be a video, a TV show, a movie, a book that you're reading, stand-up shows, stand-up comedy, theater. Do you like for it to be predictable? Do you actually enjoy it being foreseeable? Because me personally, in order for me to be impacted, engaged, satisfied with something, I like for it to not be predictable. Because I, as a writer, I keep a journal. And when I'm asked to write outside of myself when I was in school, I loved that stuff because it forced me to be pulled out of my bubble, pulled out of my zone, and enter my mind into a new dimension. I have the ability to speak on it, to write on it, to express myself on it, but at least it's something that I am kind of paving the way, paving a new road, as opposed to my autobiographical writing being predictable to me because it's coming from me, and because it is more of a documentation about my character. Anybody who has read my very first journal and reads my journal in the present, and there's an issue from 10 years ago that you read now in the present, you can probably guess how I would opine about something. Especially if you're reading it and you're someone who knows me already in person and have known me for years. Like, you pretty much know what my values are, you know what things I find ethical, what I don't find ethical, what I find offensive, what I don't find offensive, behavior that is acceptable, behavior that's unacceptable. You can pretty much do a very good, educated, safe guess about me, because I have made it also pretty easy to be predictable given my consistency. So when you're watching a work of art, do you actually want for things to be predictable? Because you know of the source material. I think that most of the issues that I see people combating amongst each other online, discussing these things, is you'll talk about how something is not presented on the screen. Is it because you like for something to be shown to you as opposed to you being told of it? Say, in this instance, what you have seen and read about in the comics, you want to have it shown to you with actions, with a moving picture. Or are you looking for the MCU to be its own thing, to where even if you're acquainted with the source material, that's not going to affect you because ultimately you want for the outcome to not be predictable? Even if you know from the comics that, I don't know, the heroes are always winning, but maybe there's one instance in which one of them actually finally kicks the bucket, then what do you want to see? Would you rather have the story of that character be changed ever so slightly to accommodate a new kind of story? Or would you rather have it word for word, what you see from the source material, turn that into a picture? The Stephen King movies, a lot of people come from the books. Harry Potter is another great example. I think that was the first heated debate I ever saw about how the books are better than the movie because movie problems. And I'm like, well, consider how much you can actually present in a movie. Consider what you should be showing in a movie as well, because if the book already exists and the book serves as a stimulant for your head, why wouldn't you want the movie to differ ever so slightly? If you're really concerned about the accuracy of the content, then you know that you ought to consult the written material, because the written material is older than the movies. So why not welcome the possibility of a different outcome? So I'm thinking that maybe that is the thing. People want to see exactly what they read put on a screen, which I understand the appeal. When I was younger, I used to feel the same way. I'm like, oh my God, I really wish that we could remake some of these things, or that this really cool old book that I read got turned into a movie, because what I'm reading is difficult to comprehend given that it's material from like the early 1900s or from another century altogether. Whatever it is that impeded my comprehension, that is a me problem. That's the way I look at it. But it's not like, wow, I cannot live my life in full because I'm not being served in this regard. See what I mean? Like I said, this is an episode for you guys. Any of you people who are passionate about movies, and maybe you have engaged in a heated debate with someone somewhere, let it be online or in person, you have had an exchange that maybe got out of control, let me know about it, because I can say that I will never relate to that because I just don't care. For me, the biggest issue became the issue of how to make something impressive. And I think that for me, what works for me is for it to not be predictable. So to me, a really good book and a really good movie is the one that I cannot predict. A stand-up show, a theater show, one that I cannot predict. And in a sense, I think that I developed that because since I'm not a reader, I'm not familiar with a lot of books. So it's not like, okay, my mind is pre-contaminated when I'm watching this work of art, this performance about something that already pre-existed. Therefore, oh, this doesn't compare to what came out in the book, I'm disappointed. Nothing like that. I pretty much go into almost everything that I see, almost everything that I watch. I'm being exposed to that material for the first time ever. And I guess that's why sometimes when I say, oh, I really enjoyed that movie, I really enjoyed that show, some people go like, what? I hated it. And then when they explain and describe what it is, I'm like, well, okay. All I know is that I had a good time with it. Even if the writing, the dialogue could have used some improvement, whatever. Because I couldn't predict the ending of it as the movie was progressing, it's like, okay, maybe you know that the unexpected tends to happen because you know the source material, the author very well, then you are predisposed to that. But for me, someone who's not pre-contaminated, I guess it's easier to leave a better impression on me because of that. I just wanted to see what you guys think about that. Like, do you understand what I mean by that? Does it make sense to you? Do you disagree with it? Are you more of a, I like for things to be predictable. I don't like to be disappointed. Whatever it is, that's the way that I am. That's the most simple way I can present my point. I think the best works are the works that have an outcome that I did not see coming. Leave it at that. Well, there you guys have it. Thank you so much for tuning in. Let me know your thoughts, and I'll see you on the next one.